A violent clash occurred in Isseke, Anambra State, between the Biafran Liberation Army and the Nigerian army, resulting in Nigerian forces being overwhelmed and retreating. The confrontation was described as a live war or battlefield situation, with injuries and chaos witnessed on the ground. The Biafran Liberation Army commander, named NJ Makeup, reportedly led the assault and spoke about defeating the opposing militia and their leader. A key adversary, identified as Isseke, an alleged commander from the Nigerian troop, was reportedly defeated in the battle and fled the scene. After escaping, Isseke allegedly returned later to vandalize a building near the Biafra Liberation Army's base in apparent retaliation. However, a critic condemns Isseke and others as terrorists, praising the Biafran Liberation Army for cutting them down and defending the local people. The critic repeatedly affirms his identity as Angel NJ and claims his appearance always brings disaster to enemies. He ends with strong support for the Biafra Liberation Army, portraying them as protectors of the people while mocking the defeated Nigerian security forces for fleeing. The silence of early morning in Isseke, a town in Anambra State, was suddenly shattered by the terrifying sound of gunfire. It was not the usual crackle of isolated shots, but a sustained and thunderous exchange of fire that turned the once peaceful community into something that resembled a battlefield. According to reports from the scene, a violent confrontation broke out between the Biafran Liberation Army and the Nigerian army, marking one of the most intense clashes in recent memory between separatist forces and the state. What unfolded in Isseke that day was not just a skirmish. It was a large-scale armed battle, one that witnesses later described as a live war, with bullets flying through the air, people running for safety, and the terrifying realization that the state's monopoly on violence was being challenged right on the streets. Videos circulating online, including one from a YouTube channel known as Magnetic Cheeks TV, captured parts of the chaos and its immediate aftermath. In these videos, the crackle of gunfire is nearly constant, occasionally interrupted by voices yelling commands, expressions of pain, or people filming from the sidelines with shaky hands. The Biafran Liberation Army, a paramilitary wing of the pro-Biafra separatist movement, is led in this region by a man who calls himself Commander NJ Makeup. His real name remains unknown to the public, but within the movement and among followers of the cause for Biafran independence, Commander NJ Makeup is recognized as a figure of authority and charisma. He was reported to have personally led the operation in Isseke, commanding his men with a sense of purpose that suggested this was no random raid. It was strategic, it was deliberate, and it was meant to send a message. Opposing the Biafran Liberation Army in this particular clash were a combination of Nigerian army units and militia groups loyal to the government. Among these was a controversial and heavily armed unit led by a man identified in local media as Commander Isseke. This name, like Commander NJ Makeup's, is likely a pseudonym, but he is known in security circles as a militia leader with deep ties to federal forces and strong links to the internal security apparatus operating in the southeast. When the clash erupted, it quickly escalated beyond the usual pattern of hit-and-run tactics often seen in the southeast. Eyewitnesses recounted that it was a sustained exchange of gunfire that lasted for several hours. According to those on the ground, including residents who filmed the event, the Nigerian military units and their allied militia were overwhelmed. The tactics used by the Biafran Liberation Army appeared to be well coordinated. Men were seen flanking the Nigerian positions, making use of the town's narrow streets and abandoned buildings to execute a form of urban guerrilla warfare. As the battle raged, civilians fled the area in droves. Some took refuge in nearby forests, while others locked themselves in their homes. Many did not make it to safety in time. Stray bullets, collapsed buildings, and panic claimed the lives of innocent bystanders, though the exact number of casualties remains unknown due to the chaos of the situation and the lack of an official response from the Nigerian military. A crucial moment came when Commander N.J. Makeup and his men reportedly cornered the militia led by Commander Okisofire. What followed was a fierce firefight that resulted in the defeat of Okisofire's group, according to reports from the Biafran Liberation Army's sympathizers. Commander Okisofire was said to have fled the battlefield, abandoning his men and their positions. This retreat was widely mocked by Biafran supporters on social media, who saw it as a sign of weakness and proof that the Nigerian state could not hold its ground in areas where separatist sentiment is strong. However, the story did not end there. Later that same day, Commander Okisofire reportedly returned to the outskirts of the area and vandalized a building believed to be near or associated with the Biafran Liberation Army's base. This act was seen by some as retaliation, but it was widely condemned by critics who argued that attacking civilian structures in frustration was both cowardly and criminal. In a follow-up video, a man identifying himself repeatedly as Angel NJ, believed to be another name used by Commander NJ Makeup, addressed the public. In a passionate speech laced with spiritual references and revolutionary fervor, Angel NJ stated that every time he appears, disaster follows for the enemy. He described himself as a protector of the people and claimed that his mission was to safeguard the Biafran community from what he called terrorist elements. By terrorist elements, he was referring to the Nigerian army units and affiliated militias like the one led by Commander Okisofire. He said they had long tormented the people of the region, engaging in unlawful raids, harassment, and brutality. He also claimed that the Biafran Liberation Army had cut them down and ended their reign of terror, pointing to the successful defense of Isseke as proof of their effectiveness. The speech, emotionally charged and filled with vivid imagery, was clearly designed to both inspire his followers and intimidate his adversaries. Throughout the speech, he reinforced his identity as Angel NJ, declaring that his presence always brought disaster to enemies of the Biafran cause. In a moment that resonated with many of his supporters, Angel NJ walked through what he described as his kingdom, the liberated streets of Isseke, calling on the people to stand firm in their identity and resistance. He reminded them that their freedom would not come easily, but that battles like the one they had just witnessed were necessary steps toward a larger goal. At one point, he also addressed community organizations such as the Arondizuogu Progressive Union and the Arondizuogu Youth Union. He called on them to stop supporting Nigerian forces and instead rally behind those fighting for liberation. According to him, the community's safety and future would be secured not by cooperating with what he called terrorist soldiers, but by embracing the revolutionary cause and resisting occupation. It is important to note that while Angel NJ and his supporters see themselves as freedom fighters, the Nigerian government has a different view. From Abuja's perspective, groups like the Biafran Liberation Army are illegal paramilitary organizations responsible for attacks on security personnel, destruction of public infrastructure, and the creation of fear in already fragile communities. They argue that such groups are undermining the nation's unity and must be confronted with full force. However, the events in Isseke tell a different story. The withdrawal of Nigerian forces under pressure from the Biafran Liberation Army raises questions about the government's ability to maintain control in the southeast. It also shows that the separatist movement, far from being a scattered group of dissidents, may now have the tactical organization and community support necessary to carry out sustained operations against state forces. The emotional dimension of this conflict cannot be ignored either. In the YouTube video that captured some of the battle's aftermath, chants, prayers and celebrations were heard alongside the gunshots. There was singing, there was crying, and above all, there was a powerful sense of purpose among those who believed that what had happened in Isseke was not just a battle, but a victory for a people long denied their identity and autonomy. Angel NJ's speech made repeated reference to the year 2025, positioning it as a turning point. He spoke as though this year, this moment in time, was fated to be the beginning of a great transformation. Whether this belief is grounded in strategy or ideology, it reveals a deep psychological commitment to the cause of Biafran independence among those fighting under his command. As the dust begins to settle in Isseke, the reality of what has happened is sinking in. Houses have been destroyed, families have been displaced, and the social fabric of the town is more frayed than ever. The government has yet to issue a comprehensive statement, and there are rumors that new military deployments may be underway to reclaim control of the area. But the people of Isseke know what they saw. They know who stood and who ran. They know which side brought war to their streets and which side claimed to defend them. For now, Commander NJ Makeup, or Angel NJ, remains a folk hero in the eyes of many in Isseke and beyond. His name, whether real or symbolic, is being whispered in markets and prayed for in churches. But there is also fear that the battle in Isseke is just the beginning of a larger confrontation between the Nigerian state and the growing forces of Biafran resistance. What happened in Isseke on that fateful day in May 2025 was more than a gunfight. It was a symbolic clash between two visions of Nigeria's future, one that holds the country together as it is, and one that seeks to break away and build something new, something rooted in history, identity, and the dream of self-determination. Whether that dream turns into a lasting reality remains to be seen. But for the people of Isseke, the scars of war are no longer a distant memory. They are fresh, they are real, and they are reminders of a struggle that is far from over. As the sun began to set on the town of Isseke, what remained were the echoes of chaos, broken structures, and smoldering symbols of a power struggle that has been simmering beneath the surface for decades. For many who live in Anambra State and the broader southeastern region of Nigeria, the events of that day felt like the beginning of a larger chapter, one that could no longer be ignored by the federal government, the international community, or even the local leaders who had long danced cautiously between loyalty to Abuja and sympathy for the Biafran cause. The Biafran Liberation Army's successful resistance against a better-equipped and state-supported opponent like the Nigerian army raises many questions about how deeply rooted this movement has become. Although the Nigerian state has long maintained that the agitation for Biafra is limited to fringe elements with no real public backing, the scenes in Isseke tell a different story. The battle was not fought in some distant forest or hidden base. It happened in the middle of a populated town. Videos captured civilians cheering, some waving Biafran flags, others boldly identifying themselves as witnesses to what they described as a victory for their people. What does this mean? For one, it suggests that the Biafran Liberation Army is no longer operating in isolation. They are embedded within the very communities they claim to protect. Their fighters are not faceless rebels living in the wilderness. They are sons and brothers, often supported silently by locals who feel abandoned by the Nigerian state. Angel NJ's speech, as erratic and dramatic as it sounded to outsiders, struck a powerful emotional chord with his audience. There was a recurring theme: I am here for the protection of my people. It is a theme that resonates deeply in the Southeast, where many people feel over-policed, underprotected, and ignored by the central government. He claimed that each time he appears, disaster falls on the enemies of the people. A metaphorical and literal statement in this context. Whether one sees him as a liberator or a warlord depends largely on which side of the national divide they stand on. The speech also contained scathing criticism of Commander Isseke. Angel NJ ridiculed him for fleeing during the confrontation, portraying him as a coward who returned only to destroy property in vengeance. He suggested that Issike's vandalism of a nearby building, allegedly associated with Biafran sympathizers, was a coward's retaliation. According to Angel NJ, that act of destruction did not reflect strength, but frustration. A failed attempt to reassert dominance after being embarrassed on the battlefield. And then there were the cultural and emotional symbols that filled Angel NJ's address. He spoke about his kingdom, referring to Isseke and the broader Biafran territory. He referred to the people as his brothers and sisters, and promised that their suffering would not continue forever. He referenced the traditional Arondizwogu Eke festival, which was ongoing at the time of the battle, and used it as a backdrop for his message. The festival, a cornerstone of cultural heritage in the region, became not just a celebration, but a symbolic resistance gathering. Angel NJ claimed he attended it to show solidarity with the people, to celebrate culture, and to warn enemies that the movement was very much alive and visible. The Biafran Liberation Army's use of symbolism is critical to understanding its appeal. They are not just fighting with bullets, they are fighting with ideology. Their leaders speak in metaphors, draw from spirituality, and embed their rhetoric in cultural references that ordinary people understand and relate to. This approach builds more than fear. It builds loyalty. Meanwhile, in government circles in Abuja, the events in Isseke are likely causing deep concern. The Nigerian military prides itself on being the most powerful force in West Africa. That reputation took a heavy blow when video evidence, live commentaries, and eyewitness testimonies revealed that its forces had been pushed back by a local militia. The optics are damaging. It shows that the conflict in the southeast is not only unresolved but intensifying, and that military solutions may not be sufficient. What happened in Isseke was not isolated either. There have been increasing reports of similar confrontations in other parts of southeastern Nigeria, including in Orlu, Nsukka, and parts of Ebonyi and Abia states. These are not sporadic riots or protests. They are now coordinated military-like operations involving trained personnel, tactical planning, and apparent intelligence capabilities. The Biafran Liberation Army's ability to intercept, ambush, and rout state-backed forces suggests a level of sophistication that cannot be dismissed. One of the more revealing parts of the video commentary from Magnetic Cheeks TV involved a brief discussion about how the Biafran Liberation Army was using surveillance equipment, specifically mentions of a CCTV camera, to monitor activity in and around their base. While this might sound rudimentary in advanced military terms, it is still significant in the context of an insurgency. It shows that they are leveraging technology, however basic, to gain an advantage and monitor enemy movements. It also suggests internal organization and an understanding of modern warfare that contradicts the government's portrayal of them as a disorganized gang of criminals. Another telling detail is the refusal of Okisofire's militia, described as Musa boys and Asari boys, to enter the nearby forest where the Biafran Liberation Army had entrenched themselves. The video commentator noted that nobody wanted to enter the forest. This was likely not just out of fear, but because the forest was tactically prepared. It may have been mined, booby-trapped, or simply too dangerous to navigate without suffering heavy casualties.
Mpamosa, oti yabo na tuti posuma. Yabo butu ha de ya. Na yabo ya me. Ya nebe obrahadra. Tabo 4 me 2025. Mbefo ebe ha ana ha no we challenge last. Eba ka ha su retrieve. Na iko sha. Mbai. Yabo obra di yelina. Yeli na efre abo obra. Yeli na abo. Eba ka ogunigwa gbori amo tanka. Eba ka ha no sense. Na kwa ya. Waba. Pai na. Ya atrasa ha de ya. Haja picha sobra. Mpana ya bo ku ha de ya. Mpa ya bo obra ndezu. Ya de ya. Ogunigwa mbra ni mba. Ya de ya. So, mano ogunigwa. So mpai. So ya de ya kasi kamna ke ngasa. Na ya ba dobra ha sere ha. So mpai. Eba ga na ha no we challenge ya. Ha wure na ara na ba na yi. Bana ya bo ya ha yisi. De se ya na. Oh ya de ya. So mpai. Ya ka si kan gosi dia sa. Nkuze n'ihu, ka ngosi ko ebe nke ọzọ. Ogburi ko nke izizi bụ ụzọ na ihe kwesị. Na Mosa.
Na ego Mosa. Mpande ụgbọ, mpanya na awu. Isseke ka ya na amere na. Ya awu ebe bombu gbara ha ụzọ ha si bịa. Bombu gbara ha buru ha, ga ha n'ime ọhịa ebe a. Ga ha n'ime ọhịa ebe a. So ha dọrọ onwe ha atọ. Lelie mpa ebe ha atọ ka Jizọs. Bishop na top maja. Na na kinya na amere na. Post top maja na bishop. Ebe na kinya amere na. Monsa. Agi na report. Mba Monsa. Mba lekuye ba nke na nke. Kwara ha na ebe 5:26 minutes mba mmanya oge a mmanya nọ na power house na-ele ha. 5:26 minutes. Nke na agba ha hang one of their member. N'elu ihe a, n'elu ebe mpa. N'elu ebe akọ togoro ofu onye nọ n'ime the heroes. Mbale ọ dị gas n'ebe agbara ihe mpa. Amoisa. Ọ dị gas gbara ihe a. Mpa ọ bana dutu post bishop na top maja. Side ozo oboro stroke Isseke stroke Mbosi. Onye ọ dị ya mpa Moisa.
Man over. Eche ma asara ike dị ha agbaga ọsọ. I'm on look on. I'm Isseke. I'm live. Isseke.
These guys are fighting themselves life and direct more. Ana ndị nka ma ọ dị abao kama na ndị Biafra Liberation Army jizi ogbunigwe wee nweta ndị ọfụma. Ha ji ogbunigwe wee gbasasịa ndị gbasa the armored car and a lot of them were injured. Although they ran away, Are you getting me? According to the news from this video, they ran away. That is, the Biafran Liberation Army guys dealt heavily with the Musa boys and Asari the Kubo boys. So the Asari boys slash the Musa boys ran away or more because the gang of Ogbunigwe ndị Biafran Liberation Army yuzu wee gbasasịa ha karịrị akarị na ndị a wee tipụ ọsọ.
erene ya ọkụ and ha kpọkọsịrị sisters ladies at this shop na agbara ọkụ na owe ụmụ nwaanyị ha burukọsịrị dị a kwere na ọ na-eme life and direct. APU the APU, the Aronizog Progressive Union, the AYU Aronizog Youth Union. I want you people to understand what Okiso Fire is doing to you people. I came to save you people, but you rejected me. You rejected Jamaica. And I'm life and direct in Obinetiti. Life and direct in Obinetiti. Here also today. I na has their woto, and they are running away. Get one now to one Okiso. Okiso. Ihe promoter ga ebe a wee gba ọsọ kedu ihe a na-atụgo ọkwesị na-ewe man ịma unu pụta unu na-etu ọnụ na-deceive the people. Unu pụta unu na-etu ọnụ na unu gbara nka unu gbara nka iwe ji ewe m mewepụta n'onwe m. I told you that I am angel. Any day I appear before you, it is disaster. Oh, a disaster call. I appeared to Okiso, I appeared to Caterpillar, I appeared with the angels, appeared life and direct. We appeared life and direct. This is the work, the handwork of Ogbunigwe. Niya moto Okiso, moto ndị Ebube Agụ in Aronizog, the moto ndị terrorist group, all these terrorists that are destroying our area, we cut them down. The Biafra Liberation Army got them down immediately. Niya we benefit. Anọ m life and direct. Okiso gịnị na-achụgo? Okiso gịnị na-achụgo? Life moto ere n'ọkụ, moto ndị Tiger Base, moto ike nguru agụ ha, moto the terrorists. Look at them. And I'm live and direct in Jamaica now, live and direct.
Icon on the top right corner of your screen to watch my next video. You will enjoy it. I will see you again in my next update. Enjoy the rest of your day. Goodbye for now.